Okay, day 2. Let's go. It's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna change my strat. I'm not going to watch um, the coach Curtis um, because I think it was I need to start from the beginning because there was a lot of information and I didn't really play comfortable on, on my game. So I think it's better to start with a beginner's guide. So let's see, half an hour. Although it seems to be really basic. But
¿Te imaginas que llega un cliente sin efectivo y sin tarjeta y te pide pagar con Bizum?
I don't know, maybe it works.
Where your first death is usually League of Legends, where your first death is usually followed up by your teammates offering such helpful, such wonderful advice. It's one of the world's biggest games. Over 160 plus champions, fancy skins making them completely unrecognizable, and a meta, well, that changes faster than your teammates' mood swings. Even casual players struggle to keep up, and, well, if you're completely new, well, let's just say playing the tutorial prepares you for your first game about as well as binge watching all of Arcane would. But that's okay. At least there's no shortage of beginners content on YouTube, right? I mean, we're both here. Just kidding. Basically, everything out there assumes you've already got at least 4 years experience of being a beginner already. See, we're skill capped, and in over a decade of League of Legends content creation, well, we produce some of League's most popular beginner guides, helping millions of players just like you take their first steps into the game. But here's the thing, we are our own biggest critics. Well, second biggest. There's always the YouTube comment section. And while our previous guides definitely helpful, we did notice a fundamental problem with them. It's almost impossible to teach the game to a true beginner if we're using the top 0.01% of players to do so. So, for this video, we're taking a totally different approach. We've partnered with actual beginners, people who've never touched League before, and paired them up alongside our top players to create something truly, truly special. A guide that finally speaks your language. See, that's often the problem. While our content helps tons of players crush their ranked goals through our world-class courses, there's always the occasional comments like these that pop up. And you know what? God dang it, they're completely right. High-ranked players mean well, and they're undoubtedly amazing to learn from. But sometimes you just need somebody who knows exactly what it's like to be in your shoes. And while this video is all you'll need to get started, our brand new beginner courses over on our site really continue your journey by taking the same concepts taught by the pros to help you improve quickly, and then breaking them down into bite-sized pieces that you'll actually understand from day one. No confusing terms, no assuming you just know things, just clear, practical advice you can use from your very, very first game, which also works as the perfect entry point to all of our other amazing content, giving you a clear path to rapidly improve as you become more and more comfortable with the game. There's a reason SkillCapped is the only premium instructional resource in the scene. We invest and believe in our content, so much so that we even back it up with 2 guarantees. First, take up to 2 full weeks to explore everything that we offer, and it's not for you, you get a full refund. No questions asked. Full refund. Second, and best of all, we guarantee that you will climb at least 5 divisions using our service, or, again, you get every single penny back. No questions asked. You've got everything to gain, literally nothing to lose. Sign up today using the exclusive beginner discount link in the description below. Anyway, back to the video. You've heard about it, you've seen it, and you've probably watched it in one form or another, but what's it all about? Starting from ground zero, League of Legends is what you call a MOBA. short for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. You have your map, which in the case of League of Legends is Summoner's Rift. This is where all of that magic happens. But also, so is this. You're going to quickly learn Riot loves changing the appearance and the theme of the map. We're choosing to use the classic League of Legends map for this video, as it's what is used nearly all the time up until 2025. But while the map may look different depending on when you start playing, don't worry, the core functionality really does remain the same. And you can always keep up to date with any changes happening to Summoner's Rift through the rest of the videos on our channel. On Summoner's Rift, you play as a 5 versus 5, where one team plays from the blue side on the bottom half of the map, and the other team plays on the red side on the top half of the map, consisting of 3 different lanes, top, middle, and bottom, as well as a jungle filled with neutral monsters that are ready to be slain. From the very beginning, you spawn at what's called your team's fountain, and can then begin heading to your designated lane. Shortly after, the game springs to life, as endless waves of minions begin marching down all 3 lanes from both sides of the map. And since this is a PvP game, you're going to also find your opponent. From here, you then last hit minions or kill your lane opponent in order to earn gold and experience. Gold, which is then used to buy items from the shop in your base to improve the power of your chosen character, which from this point onwards, we're going to call a champion. This isn't Tekken. Okay. Then you can convert your power into taking one of the many objectives around the map to earn combat buffs, with the end goal being to eventually push down one of those 3 lanes, destroying the protective structures on the way in order to kill your opponent's nexus. That's this thing right here, the primary objective of every game of Summoner's Rift. Destroy this, and your team is declared victorious. The first place any new player should start is with the League tutorial, and don't worry, it's not one of those endless boring tutorials. It's actually designed to get you into the action fast. Think of it as your quick start guide to the HUD and the basic controls. It's about getting your fingers on the right keys and making sure you can move around and start fighting. But regardless, strap in. We're going to do a quick rundown of all the basics right here. Each champion in League of Legends has 4 abilities, which are by default set to Q, W, E, and R, as well as a passive that usually ties your champion's whole kit together in one way or another. You then have 2 extra spells called Summoners, which you can pick in the lobby. You won't have all of these unlocked when you first start out, but they're basically just extra abilities that you can use at any point during the game, which are by default down to D and F. And I say pick, but basically one of them is almost always going to be Flash, which Flash basically just lets you blink in a chosen direction on a very, very long cooldown. And then for the other option, you're going to have a teleport, an extra damaging spell called Ignite, a heal, a shield, something that makes you move faster, which is called a Ghost, and Exhaust, which slows the target and makes them do less damage. Oh, and then there's Smite, and this is required in order to play the jungle role and can only be used on minions and neutral monsters. Now, as for the rest of the HUD, you've got your health and your mana bars, which are also displayed above your character, and then your current level and your XP bar. Each champion on Summoner's Rift starts at level 1, gaining XP by simply existing near enemy minions or champions when they die. With every level you advance, up to the cap of level 18, you gain a skill point, which you can then place in either of your Q, W, or E to either unlock or improve one of your skills. Your ultimate, which is your R, works just a little bit differently and can't be unlocked until you reach level 6, and it can't be improved until level 11 and level 16. Gold is the main resource in League of Legends, gained from a few different sources, but the main ones that you really need to know about at the time being are scoring the last hit on a minion. That's these guys right here, more on them later, with either your attacks or abilities, or through killing enemy champions. How much gold you have is displayed right here. Gold can then be used to purchase items at the shop, which is located at your team's fountain, which is the place you spawn into. You can then access the shop by clicking here on the shopkeeper, or by using P on your keyboard if you want to get a little bit fancy with it. You don't want to get a little bit fancy, right? Now, although you can access the shop from anywhere, do bear in mind that this is just window shopping. If you're outside the shop, you actually have to go in person to the store to buy your chosen items. And contrary to what you might see from your teammates, rather dying or worse, being seen walking, you can actually hit B at any time during the game to recall. Any items you purchase are in order to make your champion stronger, and they're going to be put into your bags right here, numbered and keybound to 1 through 7 by default. This is important here, as some items even have on-use effects, but really just don't even begin to worry about that just yet. To the right of that, we then have the minimap. You'll very, very quickly learn, and probably get told thousands of times, that this is undoubtedly the most important part of your HUD. And, well, yeah, it is. They aren't wrong, as you can get tons of information like where enemy champions are and, well, or they're not, okay? When you're new to the game, keeping track of the minimap while playing is honestly really challenging, and that's totally, completely normal to feel that way. Just try to take quick looks at it when you can in the beginning, especially during quiet moments when not much is happening on your actual screen, and then you'll kind of ramp up and get better at it. And to be honest here, even some high-ranked players really don't check their minimap as much as they should. So, sure, it's a useful skill to develop, but just don't stress about it too much when you're first starting out. Focus on the basics first, and minimap awareness is really going to come naturally with time. Anyway, above the minimap, you can see your team, along with their level, health, mana, and cooldown of their ultimate. That's their R, displayed by the green orb. Above that, you can check the respawn timers of dead enemy champions. Then, in the top right, you have your own teams and the enemy team's kill count. To the right of that are your individual kills, assists, and deaths. And then your creep score, which is CS for short, which is just how many minions you've last hit and killed. Then to the right of that is the in-game timer. You can also hit tab to bring up what's essentially the game's scoreboard here, where you can track the stats, items, and CS of your own and the opposing team, along with a load of other useful information like when certain objectives are spawning, but again, more on that later. Don't stress yourself out with it just yet. Then, to move or attack here, it's all done through right-clicking with your mouse. And no, you can't use WASD to move, so just get used to it. You can even right-click on the minimap to travel longer distances as well, if that's your thing. To unlock your camera, you want to press Y and unbind this so you don't accidentally lock your camera. Then to move your camera, drag your cursor to the top, bottom, or sides of your screen. You can even left-click on the minimap to look at specific areas if you so choose. If you find the camera movement a little bit too fast or too slow, you can adjust the sensitivity under Options, Game, Camera Movement Speed. When you start a game on Summoner's Rift, your team of 5 players splits up across different parts of the map. One player goes to the middle lane, that's your mid laner. One heads to the top lane, yep, that is your top laner. 2 players team up and go to the bottom lane. These are your support and ADC, which is short for attack, damage, carry. And one player focuses on farming neutral camps located between lanes. We call this the jungle, and their role is, well, you guessed it, called the jungler. The spot you choose to play in actually helps decide what kind of champion you're going to pick and what your role is going to be inside of the game. So let's start with mid lane here. It's the most popular lane, and many players say it's the most important role in the game. I was also told to say some dude called Faker plays there or something like that. Okay. Mid puts you right in the center of everything that happens, which means you can get to any part of that map pretty quickly. If you enjoy playing mages or casters or even assassins that hunt for kills, then this is likely going to be the lane for you. Casters and mages thrive here, as mid is the shortest lane of all three. And mages in League, while dishing out tons of damage, do tend to be squishy and immobile, meaning being able to play close to a defensive structure at all times is going to be a big reason for why they ended up primarily being played in mid. And as for assassins, well, aside from preying on them squishy mages, being in the center of the map means they can quickly sneak into other lanes to hunt for kills on enemy champions. So moving on to top lane, this is where you're typically going to find two types of champions, fighters and tanks. See, unlike mid, top is a much longer lane, meaning in order to farm minions, you're going to be much further away from the safety net of your turret. More on turrets a little bit later on. Now, for this reason, you need to be a champion that's very self-sufficient and can hold their own, either in the form of a fighter, which is typically a melee champion that does a ton of damage while still being pretty tough to kill, with the drawback of being easily kited, or a tank, which are champions built to soak up damage, play on the front line, and protect their team through various crowd control like stuns, slows, and knockups. Now, some of them can even taunt, giving you the true tank experience. Since top lane is usually the furthest away from all the action happening on the rest of the map, it's perfect for players who love going head-to-head with their opponent in a mostly 1v1 setting. Lastly, there is bot lane. Now, if you like playing with a partner, then this is going to be the lane for you. The meta in bot lane revolves around having one carry champion and a support playing together to win the lane 2v2. As the carry or the ADC, your job is to, well, carry. These types of champions start off pretty weak in the early game, and then they get stronger as the game progresses, meaning that you're really going to need a certain level of patience to deal with these characters. Typically, ADCs end up providing the main source of consistent damage for their team. You can honestly consider this role as the main character. You're the playmaker, the damage dealer, and all eyes eventually end up being on you to carry the game. And, well, I'm sure at some point, all the opposing enemy champions are going to end up being on you too. But just like most of the players this role attracts, you really need a babysitter. This is where your support comes in. As the support, you walk so others may run. It's your primary job to go bot lane with your ADC to help them farm. No, not by taking the minions yourself, but by watching your ADC while they attempt to. Support champions typically offer more in the way of utility than they do in the way of damage. And while it may seem boring not getting much gold or much EXP, supports typically make up for it by having some of the most impactful abilities in the entire game of League of Legends, with most champions filling one of two roles, either as an engage support who looks to set up their team with powerful stuns, knockups, or even grabs, or as a more conventional support called enchanters. Enchanters focus on keeping their team alive and buffing their damage through various shields and various heals. If you ever played healers in other games, enchanters should really feel very similar. Besides helping your team with heals, shields, or starting fights, support players really have another very important job as well, controlling vision, which essentially just means they put down these things called wards, which allow you to see in the dark. But again, a little bit more on this later on. Now, we've talked about top, we've talked about mid, we've talked about bot lane, but League is a 5v5 game, and just because we're beginners, it doesn't mean we can't count, right? So where does that fifth dang player go? They become the jungler. Jungle is definitely the most unique role, as you're not assigned to any specific lane. So during the early levels, you're effectively just kind of a free spirit, free to roam the entire map as you wish, just as long as you're doing one of two things. Either killing jungle monsters in their camps, these monsters are like the jungler's version of minions, they give you gold and experience to help you get stronger, or by impacting your lanes through what's known as ganking, which is essentially leaving the jungle to surprise enemies in their lane, helping you and your teammates score kills by turning a noble one-on-one fight into a 2 versus 1 in your team's favor. And it's your goal as a jungler to strike a balance between spending your time ganking and spending your time farming your camps. Kill too many jungle camps, and you're going to quickly become the reason why your other lanes lost 1v1. Yeah, your fault, makes perfect sense. But you gank too much, and you're going to end up falling behind on golden experience. There's a perfect balance and synergy. Jungle, out of all the roles, probably has the most diverse pool of champions, with the only real requirement being that you're able to deal enough damage to kill the camps. Typically, though, most jungle champions are ones that bring something useful for when you're ganking lanes, be that crowd control or even just high burst damage. Remember, though, everything that we've talked about so far is just a basic guideline of the meta in order to help you get started in League. While certain champions are commonly played in specific lanes, well, League of Legends gives you a lot of freedom to experiment. You can play ranged champions in top lane, take a tanky champion to mid, or even try a mage in the bottom lane. Nobody is going to stop you from doing that. And when you're ready to learn more, we have got complete courses on our website organized into 5 easy-to-follow chapters. Just pick your favorite role. We're going to guide you through every step of that learning journey. So we just got done talking about junglers. Let's say the jungle caught your interest. We'll start with the simple stuff, like choosing the right champion for jungle. Then, step by step, you'll learn the essentials from clearing jungle camps efficiently to pulling off successful ganks. And once you're comfortable, we're going to teach you more advanced skills like counter ganking and how to close out games for the win. For now, though, don't worry too much about picking a role or choosing a champion. We're going to find you the perfect beginner-friendly options later in the video. While the tutorial helps you learn the basics of controlling your champion, it does miss something that's really, really important here. Understanding the map and all of its objectives. Objectives come in many shapes and many forms, from purple three-headed worms to magical elemental dragons to just, well, plain old turrets. There's even some seasonal objectives occasionally, like this guy, Otacon. Now, to stay up to date on all the current seasonal objectives, just hit the subscribe button here. We post weekly guides covering every game change without fail, so you're never gonna miss out. Each objective plays a crucial role in helping you win the game. Starting off with the most numerous of the objectives, let's talk about turrets. Each team has 11 of these, and while technically you can win a game by destroying as few as just 5 of these in order to reveal your opponent's nexus, most games are gonna require you to take more. There is 3 turrets in each lane, and 2 in base protecting the nexus, categorized as the outer turret, inner turret, inhibitor turrets, and then nexus turret. turrets. Turrets play a very, very important role. They're the defensive structures that exist to provide a form of protection for both teams, preventing stronger enemy champions from just walking up and killing you whenever they so choose. And in order to progress the game and advance down your opponent's lane, you're going to have to take down each and every turret one by one, gaining bonus gold whenever you do. The way turrets work is that they attack one unit at a time, highlighted by this red line here. Whatever unit walks in range first is going to be the primary target until that target dies or walks out of range. However, outside of this, turrets ultimately exist to protect the laner, and if you do damage to a champion while in range of their turret, it's going to prioritize attacking you. In the early game, turrets also have what's known as plating, which is why the health bar of the outer turret looks slightly different. This just makes them harder to destroy, but every one of the 5 plates you destroy, you gain bonus gold for doing so. To learn about the rest of the objectives though, we first need to talk more about jungle. We touched on this slightly when discussing roles, but the jungle is divided into 4 quadrants separated by the river, with each team having their own side of the jungle. Each half of the jungle has 6 unique monsters: Gromp, wolves, blue buff, raptors, red buff, and krugs. Then in each river, both at the top and bottom side, there's a scuttle crab. The only ones you really need to care about here are the red and blue buffs and scuttle crab. Red and blue, when killed, provide combat buffs, with red granting health regeneration and causing your attacks to slow your target's movement, and blue providing mana or energy regeneration, as well as lowering the cooldown of your abilities just a little bit. Now, when the game starts, the jungler typically begins by killing their buff to help with the rest of their clear. The bottom lane players will typically help them defeat it, which we're going to call giving a leash. Now, as the game moves forward and these monsters respawn, the buffs become accessible for the rest of the team. First, a single player can pick up the buff by visiting the camp after it dies. Then in the late game, when your jungler kills these buff camps, everyone on your team who's alive gets the buff automatically. Now, as for the scuttle crab, these appear slightly later in the game, and when it's killed, it creates a glowing area that helps your team in 2 different ways. It lets you see if enemies are passing through and makes you move faster when you walk through it. It's often the game's very first mini objective that teams fight over because both junglers, depending on their route, can end up at the same one. Now, when you look at the map itself, you can see exactly where each of these objectives spawn, highlighted by these icons. And a random top tip here for any beginner looking to start jungling is to enable display recommended jungle path under game in the options. This is going to tell you exactly where you should start on the map and highlight which camp you should go to after and throughout the game. Anyway, back to the objectives. Something you may have noticed by looking at the map is these 2 different colored markers here and here. These mark the location of what's referred to as neutral objectives, epic monsters that require the help of multiple players on the team to secure in order to gain game-changing buffs, and where the jungler and the summoner spell Smite comes in clutch. In the south, we have the Dragon's Pit. At the 5-minute mark, a special dragon appears here for both teams to fight over. It can be one of 6 different types of dragons, and a new one spawns every 5 minutes after the last one is killed, each of them providing unique team-wide buffs that last for the entirety of the game, even persisting through death, making them a really high priority. Now, once the 3rd dragon of the game spawns, this is going to be then the same type which spawns for the rest of the game. While there's absolutely no reason to memorize them here, here's an idea of what each one of the last one is killed, each of them providing unique team-wide buffs that last for the entirety of the game, even persisting through death, making them a really high priority. Now, once the 3rd dragon of the game spawns, this is going to be then the same type which spawns for the rest of the game. While there's absolutely no reason to memorize them here, here's an idea of what each one of them does give your team. Infernal grants your entire team bonus damage. Mountain provides extra defensive stats. Ocean gives you health regeneration. Hextech gives you attack speed and shorter cooldowns on your abilities. Cloud gives you movement speed. And Chemtech reduces the length of crowd control and increases healing and shielding done. To be completely honest with you here though, a singular buff from any of these dragons are kind of whatever on their own. The key though is honestly when you begin to stack multiple buffs, which you can see by using this tracker here at the top of your tab scoreboard. That's because once you've reached 4 dragons in total, your team will then be rewarded with the Dragon Soul, a permanent version of that game's 3rd elemental Drake, providing a greatly enhanced version of that buff. For instance, Infernal Soul will now cause your attacks and abilities to explode around the target. Hextech will give your abilities a chain lightning effect that does damage and slows down targets. Cloud Soul gives you even more movement speed, which is further increased when using your ultimate, and so on and so on and so forth. On top of these additional effects, once one team claims that Dragon Soul, the elemental drakes will then be replaced with Elder Dragon. This is the game's most powerful objective, granting the team that killed it an incredibly strong temporary power-up that increases damage and causes you to execute any enemy champion below 20%. It often gives the team who gains it a really easy path to victory. Anyway, while all of that goes on the bottom side of the map, spawning here on the top side of the map, we have the Baron Pit. Here, 3 different neutral objectives spawn throughout the game. Basically, it's like a Pokemon evolution line, consisting of Void Grubs, Herald, and Baron, all helping your team push down lanes and destroy towers in various ways. Void Grubs spawn first, providing a fairly easy-to-take objective that grants the entire team a buff that does additional burn damage to structures when attacking them, spawning at 6 minutes into the game and having the potential to spawn 4 minutes later, depending on when the first was taken, with subsequent kills enhancing the buff, as well as spawning allied Void Mites to assist when attacking turrets. At 16 minutes, Void Grubs are then replaced with Rift Herald. Slaying this drops an item you can pick up and then use in order to summon a neutral monster you can then ride inside to direct it straight into a turret, which deals bonus damage, with Baron Nashor spawning much later at the 25-minute mark, requiring multiple members of your team in order to secure. And once killed, grants your whole team gold and a temporary buff, Lost on Death, that increases your damage and speed of your recall. Most importantly though, when you're around allied minions with the buff, it's going to empower them, causing them to deal more damage and take less damage on top of that. It makes it really difficult to defend towers versus, and you're bound to take 2 to 3 enemy towers every time your team manages to get the Baron buff. Okay, that was a lot of information, and while all of this will definitely sound confusing at first, we get it, trust us, they're really not that confusing once you get the hang of it. Once you play a few games, you're really going to understand how they all work. And the best part is you don't need to remember or even know when these objectives appear. Just press tab during the game and you're going to see timers right at the top of your screen showing you exactly which objective is next and a countdown to when it will spawn. When starting out, just don't stress too much about objectives. As you play, you're going to naturally learn when and why they matter. But for now, just know they exist and help your team when they go to it. Experience is going to teach you the rest. Okay, so now that we've covered the map and its objectives, let's get back to something that you're going to be spending most of your time doing, and that is laning. Laning is simply the term to describe playing against your opponent in one of the 3 lanes. And how you play the lane phase is going to broadly depend on your chosen champion and the champion that you are playing against on the other team. This is where League of Legends really starts to get complicated, especially for beginners, as there's so much to learn about different champions and what they can do. What's universal though is that in every lane, your main goal is the same. Get stronger than your opponent. And you do this by getting more gold and more experience than them. The first step to understanding the basics of laning, though, is to get to know your opponents. No, not them. These little guys. Minions. Those opponents. Minions start marching down your lane at 1 minute and 5 seconds in, and every 30 seconds after that. Each wave consists of 3 melee minions and 3 caster minions, with every 4th having a siege minion, and this is going to change as the game progresses, with siege minions spawning more frequently at the 15 and 25 minute marks. Melee minions are tanky and they deal the least damage. Caster minions are easier to kill, but they attack from range and deal higher damage. Siege minions do the most damage and have the most health, but reward the most gold when they're killed, which makes them very valuable. Oh, and to overwhelm you with even more information here, there's even super minions, and these are complete powerhouses that spawn in a lane once the enemy's inhibitor has been taken. And if a team manages to destroy all 3 of your inhibitors at once, you're going to be met with 2 super minions in every lane. But really, you really don't need to know any more than that. If there is one thing that you should take away from this video though, it is this right here. Minions are far more important than you're going to think they are. Trust me when I say, even players who have played for years still underestimate how valuable minions can really be. They are your main source of both experience and gold throughout the game. And to put it into perspective for you here, killing an enemy champion gives you 300 gold, and last hitting a minion on average gives you 20 gold or so. So killing, farming, last hitting, or CSing, whatever word you want to use for it, just 15 minions, which is a little over 3 waves, is the equivalent to scoring a kill. This is why, as a laner, you can't just randomly start roaming around the map doing whatever you want, as if you did, even if you scored the occasional kill, you would sacrifice way too much gold and experience. Minions exist partly to anchor you as the laner to your lane, which is why getting that last hit on minions and securing the gold is one of the most crucial skills in League to learn. While you'll see experienced players do this effortlessly and rack up impressive creep scores, as a beginner, it can really feel like you need total concentration just to get each individual last hit. But there definitely are some simple tricks that can make this really a whole lot easier. For example, knowing how many tower shots each type of minion can take before dying, or understanding knowing how many tower shots each type of minion can take before dying, or understanding which minion the tower is going to target next based off positioning and priority. These are the kind of fundamental skills that experienced players use without even thinking about it, which is why we've created beginner-friendly courses specifically focused on the essential basics, just like these. Courses where we break down each and every skill into simple steps, helping you master the fundamentals that's going to improve your game from day one. So be sure to head to the description below the video to check them out and take advantage of our exclusive discount. Besides killing minions, you can also get ahead in the lane by fighting your opponent, and this is what we call trading. In basic terms, a trade is defined as an attempt to hurt the other champion without the intent to kill them. There's 2 parts to a successful trade that we need to talk.
Okay, it's been a half an hour, so now it's time to play. Okay. I want to say this. Okay. Hello? Why isn't it loading? I think I'm going to get kicked out of the game because it doesn't load. Oh no, I don't like this. That's it. They are going to remake. And I will get banned. Yay! Let's go. I cannot even close the game. I pressed Alt F4 and it doesn't do anything. And I will need to restart my computer, and I don't want to because I don't want to split the recording, but it doesn't